Going in on set pieces is killing the game. The nonsense we're hearing, yes, about Arsenal set pieces, but about direct play, set pieces, long throw-ins at large is just another piece in a wider attack on the dichotomy of football that is needed for this beautiful game. Jamie Carragher here, maybe being the spearhead of this, but being absolutely exposed for a huge amount of bias. And this bias is being latched onto by the elitists within this game. And we're going to delve into why. But I spent a bit of time in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, looking into this situation with set pieces because something about it hasn't sat right with me. Something about it has felt off. So sit yourselves down, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to take you through this small journey. I hope you see it the same way I do. If not, listen, it's why we're here to talk, discuss, and go through this. Leave me your comments below. But I want to take a little listen. Actually, before we listen to what Jamie Carragher said, a big headline today, and that is that Jamie Carragher backtracks on baffling opinion as Liverpool defeat Frankfurt. And we all saw last night Jamie Carragher reposting about set pieces saying, I'm not against corners. It was never against corners, just throw-ins is what he said. Not corners. He didn't specify free kicks, but he said, no, corners is fine. Now, Liverpool fans, do not take this as an insult. This is not about your football club. What you did last night from set pieces is brilliant. And actually, if we look at Liverpool throughout the course of this season, Jamie Carragher on a number of occasions, namely after the situation with Man United at the weekend, actually blamed the fact that you won't win the Premier League on your frailties at set pieces. So actually, what I find so intriguing is that teams at the minute are being criticised, Arsenal, Chelsea, and others, for being good at set pieces by people like Jamie Carragher. It's bad for the game. Jamie O'Hara killing the game, whilst themselves, Jamie here, crying, moaning, bleating that his team aren't good enough at defending them, and it's going to cost them the league. I find that to be duplicitous on every single level. But this is what Jamie Carragher said. So he's come out and he's backtracked, as we've mentioned. He's come out and he's backtracked and said, no, it's just throw-ins he was talking about. Let's take a listen.
A lot of people in football think we've almost had enough of this, everyone trying to play pretty football. I was frustrated with every team almost trying to play the same type of football. And I think we've gone back, which is fine. But I almost feel like we've gone too far back in terms of, set plays, long throw-ins, the kickoffs into the corner flag.
He says it there, set plays, long throw-ins, kickoffs into the corner flag. He made a clear distinction. And remember, Sky Sports isn't like 99.9% of real YouTube channels where we have an idea of what we're going to talk about. I've obviously gone and sourced these clips, but you come on and you just record or you go live. These guys rehearse. They have scripts. They have producers. They know what they're going to go through. A lot of it is pre-prepared. They even often know what the other person is going to say, so they have time to think of responses and rebuttals, etc. It isn't, I wouldn't say it's not organic, but it is somewhat, it isn't staged as though it's fake, but there is a staging element to it. There is a production element to it that traditional YouTube doesn't have. And he did say set plays. And him, along with a lot of people, have been criticizing Arsenal for a long time about their set plays. Before we go into why this is bad for football, why this is killing the game, and why we must push back against it, is, we already mentioned it earlier, he's blamed this season on multiple occasions, Liverpool not being able to cope with set pieces and how that's going to damage their season, how that's going to hurt their season. And this isn't just now. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. This article goes back a couple of years where he was complaining about how Man City exploited Liverpool's approach to defending set pieces. This was during the Klopp era. So it's been a consistent theme for Jamie Carragher and pundits to, up until this season, to praise people that were good at set pieces and to criticize sorry, let me rephrase that. To criticize, I can't speak. To praise teams that are good at set pieces and to criticize teams that are bad at them. That is normal. And we all agree that that is correct. And that is a type of punditry, journalism, fan analysis that we want. Why are they good at scoring from set pieces? They do X, they do Y, they do Z. Why is Team B poor at defending set pieces? They do X, they do Y, they do A, they do B, they do C. These are their problems. They've got to go away and work on it. Now, for the entirety of my life until the last 2 years, this was seen as the norm. Suddenly, a team like Arsenal that have been consistently written off start to score a large amount of goals from set pieces. They play such good football. They're so dangerous that teams are now sitting 11 men behind the ball, including Newcastle away, including when Man City, of all teams, if Pep Guardiola come to play. Arsenal created a situation where teams like City become far more pragmatic. They go into a counter-attacking shape and they stop trying to maintain the possession because they know what Arsenal can do to them if they lose the ball. And by the way, that is fine. I love the dichotomy. I love the contrast. I think the English game is better when you have teams doing different things. I actually agreed with Carragher and Gary Neville for a while that everybody trying to play out from the back, everybody trying to play the same way is problematic, especially when you don't have the personnel to do it. And Man United recently have gone far more direct, a bit more long ball. And for 2 games, it's yielded some dividends. And let's do more of it if it's working. Let's try and win in different ways. And that's what we've seen with teams kicking the ball back, kicking the ball to the corner flag early in games. It's to be able to set a high press right from the beginning to try and score a goal. Teams are doing long throws because they obviously have found out teams aren't training to defend against them. And there'll be a period where teams score some goals from it, and then it will die away as we see it do before. Set pieces, Arsenal are masters. But Gary O'Neill very correctly called this out on Monday, that because you can't foul the attackers on corners as easily anymore because of VAR, it has become easier to score goals from set pieces. So why not exploit that? I'm absolutely fuming. I'm not a fan. Fans, our job is to always try and tear down what an opponent achieves, a rival achieves. You know, Fergie, it was always, Fergie time and bought the league and paid referees, even though all those things were factually incorrect. We got less added on time than about 3 other teams in Fergie's era. We actually scored less 90-minute plus winning goals in the Premier League than I think at least Liverpool and Arsenal in that time period. Fergie was only the 4th highest spender in the Premier League era. And of course, there's not a shred of evidence to even accuse him of paying referees. It was just fan-based analysis. But at no point between 1985 and 2013 were the mainstream media running think pieces and running articles and having huge discussion points on television about any of this kind of fan theory nonsense to try and chop your team down. That has now changed, and everybody's jumping on this. And I said when we heard Carragher talk on Monday, the way he was going in on Arsenal, how he was talking about, you know, putting out this, planting this seed that the PGMOL have maybe got to make it harder to score from corners, allowing the defenders of the defenders to be more physical and grab hold of their players. It was all about planting a seed to be able to take away from Arsenal. The issue is, and this is what happens when you go down the fan analysis route, is you're going to always end up being a hypocrite. We've seen it recently on the terrace, where for years people told me, Liverpool fans told me, you can't use Paul Scholes' trophies in his mid to late 30s, that he was even if he was integral in winning them, as a debate point over Steven Gerrard. Why? Well, because they're team trophies and they don't mean anything. Only for those same Liverpool fans in recent debates online to use trophies being won at 34 years of age as a reason that Salah is better than Eden Hazard, because Eden Hazard at the same age is playing for the Chelsea Legends team and has had to retire because he fell off, and his body got to a point where he couldn't play anymore. And I just always laugh at these things because it's fan analysis. You're always trying to do one-upmanship. Pundits shouldn't be doing that. It should be real truthful analysis. And when I see Jamie Carragher criticize Liverpool for being bad at defending set pieces, because that goes the opposite of being an asset, it's something that takes away from you. He's also in the past, you can go back to 2017, and him and Jamie Redknapp were fuming that not only were they not good at defending from set pieces, they weren't scoring enough from set pieces as well, saying they need to find other avenues to score goals as well. And before we get into the actual facts around set piece goals, and this is going to blow your mind, I want to play another clip for you because I know what some of the challenges are going to be, and I purposely waited until around 10 minutes into this video. I purposely waited to get to this point because some will say, Terry, but no one's saying it's bad. We're just saying that Arsenal can't rely solely on set pieces. Let's take a listen to a clip last year from Jamie Carragher.
Of course, I mean, they were. But again, you talk about coming back to, we talk about XG, but in terms of set pieces, what we saw at the start of the season, this thing was brilliant. It was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it before. Everybody in a stadium, whether you were an Arsenal supporter or the opposition supporter, felt like it was going to be a goal from a set piece. But you can't have that threat off every set piece. It's impossible. And eventually,
I agree with him there. You can't do it off every single set piece. It is absolutely impossible.
You will come back to basically maybe what other teams are doing, or maybe one of the best teams in the league, but not far and away the best team. And what happened is what we've all said throughout the season. They were too reliant on set pieces. And once the set pieces aren't as successful, have they got enough to score goals?
That in itself is a fair talking point. But can't be used now unless you want to make a big claim. So I agreed last year they needed more goals from open play. I agreed last year that not buying a striker in the summer and not buying a striker in the January was a mistake. We all agreed they needed more creativity. This is why they went out in the summer and bought Victor Gyökeres, why they got Eze, and why they bought Noni Madueke. If you now want to have that discussion, my personal view is stop leaving it as a half-hearted, open-ended statement. Arsenal can't rely on set-piece goals. To what end? They can rely on it as an asset that will yield them in the Premier League between 15 to 20 goals. I think that's a really fair claim. I think it's a really, really fair claim to say it can get them that amount of goals. Can they rely on it as their only source of goals? No. But there isn't an Arsenal fan. There isn't a Chelsea fan who, by the way, have just as many from set pieces this season as Arsenal. There isn't a Man United fan because we scored from a corner at the weekend and we scored from a throw-in the Sunderland game. None of us are sitting there and thinking, we can just do that all year. No one is saying that. We all know about our clubs respectively. We've got to score more from open play. So that should be the debate, not the diminishing of the set pieces. The set piece level goals, fantastic. They should be praised. The debate should be, do you think that Bukayo Saka and Martinelli and Victor Gyökeres and Eze, Odegaard when he's fit, Kai Havertz when he comes back, do you think collectively, Noni, do you think collectively they will score enough goals? Why doesn't anybody want to have that debate? Because that's the real conversation here. Because if Jamie Carragher, if Jamie O'Hara, if you, me, or anybody else doesn't think that group are going to score enough open play goals, enough counter-attack goals, because they are categorized differently statistically, to be able to win the league, or to be able to mount a title challenge, or to be able to win the Champions League, that's also a fair opinion, as long as you can back it up with reasoning and justification. But you've got to at least make the claim. You can't sit there and go, can't rely on set pieces. You've got to score more from all areas. We all know this. You're basically stating, if you don't breathe, you die. Yeah, we know. But is the person stating they're going to give up on breathing? Is somebody stating they're going to hold their breath for 15 minutes? No. Then why are you making the claim? It's nonsensical. The reason I think you're making the claim is twofold here. Some people want to diminish what Arsenal are doing. Make their wins, make their results seem less impressive than they are. If they win the league, it will be, yeah, you did it like Tony Pulis. It's a way of diminishing. Fine. And there is the other half, which are people that see football a certain way. All midfielders, if they're not like Pedri, if they're not like Vitinha, if they're not of that ilk, they're not worth shit. If they're an attacker and they're not Lionel Messi, if they're not Harry Kane, if they're not sort of got a brilliant first touch, multifaceted, high goal scorers, they're not worth it to me. If they're defenders that don't play out like Van Dijk, if they're fullbacks that don't have the technical ability of a Trent, I don't want to know. There are football fans who see football in a very elitist way, where they want good football to only be perceived in a very small spectrum. And it's a very, high possession based, dominating the ball, tiki-taka, fast-moving, fast-paced passing game with loads of technique. And for me, I respect that style of football. But I like the fact there's multiple ways to skin a cat. So you get those two groups that really push this narrative around set pieces. They're horrible, they're ugly, it's nasty, we should diminish it. They've got different motivations, but they're all pulling in the same direction. And for me, if their view of the game, if their approach becomes the mainstream, it kills the game. We love all of this. And I want to show you something so interesting that I've did the research on. You won't see this anywhere else because I've done the research manually over the course of the last couple of days. This graphic on the screen in front of me, in front of you, shows you the percentage of wins where a set piece goal was scored by every single champion of England for the past 20 years. And it shows you two things here. You can see the highest percentage was in the 2015-16 season, where 65% of the wins had goals from set pieces in them. In 22-23, 23-24, it was nearing the 55% mark. It's been in and around the 55% mark on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occasions in the last 2 decades. The lowest it's dropped down to was in 2017 to 2019, when it was around 31%. But what you can see on this graph is the linear growth, and that the percentage of games won by champions where a set piece goal has been scored has grown from 40% to just under 50% on average over the past 2 decades. So this idea that we're going backwards to scoring more set piece goals isn't even true in and of itself. The progression has been consistently growing for 20 years. And I think Gary O'Neill hit the nail on the head Monday. It's been harder and harder and harder over 20 years to foul your opponents, dragging people back, pulling shirts. It was far more physical 20 years ago. Far more physical 20 years ago to score goals, harder to score goals from set pieces because of that reason. That's one of them. And all that's happened so far this season is Arsenal have scored a lot of set piece goals early in the campaign. So their percentage is a lot higher. Their percentage right now is probably coming in. I haven't looked at it, but it's about 80%. About 80% of the games they've played, they've scored a set piece goal in. It's highly likely that will level out over the next 10, 15, 20 games. And it will be somewhere nearer to the average growth that we have seen. It'll be somewhere nearer to that 50-odd% mark. Because you actually look at most teams in the last 20 years have won the Premier League, between 40 to 50% of the games they have won, set piece goals have been scored. This notion that suddenly all these set pieces is crazy, all these set pieces are horrible, I just think it's being massively exaggerated. Hugely, hugely exaggerated. And you can tell that because I'm not having a pop here at Chelsea. Chelsea don't deserve any criticism. But I see nobody talking about the volume of set-piece goals Chelsea have scored. It's the same as Arsenal's. I don't see anybody writing think pieces about all the percentage of goals in the Champions League Liverpool have scored from set pieces. Why is it only one team that's being criticised for it? Especially at the same time, the only team that are coming up against teams as low, in such a low block consistently this season, have also been Arsenal. They've sat low against Chelsea. I'm not going to deny they haven't, but not as low as they have Arsenal. And we need to start. Fans, do your best. Do your worst, do your best, whichever phrase you want. But we need to start demanding more from our pundits, our professionals. We pay a lot of money for the television subscriptions. It costs money to listen to networks, buy newspapers, etc. And what we are being fed, for me, is an overly exaggerated load of old nonsense. The set-piece agenda, for me, has been exposed. We've been consistently scoring more set pieces. The champions of England have consistently scored more and more and more and more over the course of the last 2 decades. This is a proven fact. We criticize teams who are bad at defending them, and we criticize teams that don't score enough from them. Why suddenly, in 2025, have we decided we're going to start ridiculing the teams that are amazing at them? Let me know in the comments section below. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we're going to see you all again very, very soon. Peace.